Okay, here we go. So we have the tip of the nose, and it looks like a little parenthesis right at the bottom. So that's actually like the ball of the nose. Now, when it comes to the nose, the question is, where does it actually begin? So, Annalisa, since you're the only one that I can hear and see right now, where do you think the nose begins? And we're not talking about the tip, we're talking about the bridge of the nose. Uh-huh. Okay. But do you know more specifically where? You had to guess? Okay. So if some of you are guessing that the bridge of the nose starts between like the eyebrows, I could see why you think that. It appears like it does, but the truth is the bridge of the nose actually starts underneath the eyebrow, and just it's basically touching the inner corner of the eyelid, like the crease of the eyelid, this area right over here. That's actually where the bridge of the nose begins. Okay? So it's weird to think about, but if you push your finger in there, you're going to feel it. It actually curves. And the other thing is, when it comes to the nose, we typically will define it by shading. It's not going to be like a harsh, really harsh, distinct line. So because we're going to be adding some shading to this, I want everyone to draw a light source at the top of your page, just like you've learned before. Let's make a little light. Give it some rays. This is going to be our highlighted portion of the face, and then opposite that, we're going to have our shadow. So very lightly for now, I'm just going to kind of draw, it's almost like a parenthesis shape, starting from the inner corner of the eye and underneath the brow. And that's starting to represent where our nose goes. Okay, and we can also very lightly go on the opposite side and just start to indicate also where the bridge of the nose begins. Okay, let's return to the tip, the ball of the nose. We need to incorporate nostrils. So, Annalisa, what shape would you call the nostrils if you had to compare nostrils to a shape? Okay, she said a circle. You know what the truth is? Nostrils vary from person to person. So some people's nostrils can be a little rounder and more circular or more oval. Some people, it's more more of a triangle. Some people, it's more squared. The truth is, it could be a combination and hybrid of things. So just to start, here, let's take a look on the screen right now. We're going to take a look at my face. Okay, let me just switch my camera. Okay, give me a thumbs up. How are you guys doing? Are you good? You're following along? Okay, great. So I'm sure that you've probably never paid such a close attention to nostrils in your entire life, but this is kind of funny. We're going to do that right now. And look in the mirror. You're going to see like what your specific shape is. But just to start, when we're looking at the tip of the nose, that like little parenthesis shape, that's this right here. It's the tip of your nose. Okay, that's what we just drew. And when I say the ball of the nose, I'm talking about the tip. Okay, it's literally like a ball. And everyone's nose varies from individual person to individual person. And then when we look at our nostrils, they start at the bottom and like the bottom side, I want to say, of the tip. Okay, and they vary in shape. Some people, I like to call it like a teardrop shape. So and when someone's looking forward, like you're not going to see all those. Okay, you're going to see like a sliver, some portion of it. You're not going to see the whole thing. So we're going to just draw a generalized shape, and if you want to fine tune it to what your specific nostril shape looks like, you can do that. And then the next thing that we're going to do is we'll pay attention to the outer nostril, like the skin on the outside of it. And if we have to compare it to a shape, you can also say it's like a parenthesis as well. So, and you'll notice that the skin right where the nostril is, it's closer. Like if we start, this is the line right here. The skin is closer to the nostril at the bottom. And then as we work our way up and around, it gets a little wider. Then it comes up again. And then that skin, that indentation actually connects to the ball of the nose or the point. So that's what we're going to do right now when we start our drawings. Okay? All right, here we go. Okay, so as I mentioned, here's the tip. And now let's draw a general nostril shape. I'm going to go with a classic teardrop. So it's like we're starting like with a little parenthesis. And if you look really carefully, this parenthesis shape is not touching the tip. There's like the tiniest bit of space in between there. And you'll notice that I keep saying parentheses because there's certain visual cues and shapes and forms that you're going to see over and over as a pattern in the face. So let's start with a little parenthesis shape. And then as I come down, I'm going to make it like a little more triangular. And I'll bring that shape up and connect it. It's almost like a little teardrop. And I'm going to also do the same shape on the opposite side where I do a little parenthesis. And then bring that shape down and back up again, like so. And maybe you're wondering like, oh, like why did Mrs. Briskin kind of make it like a sliver and not actually fill in this entire shape? It's because when you're looking directly straight at someone, it gets distorted. Like you're not going to necessarily see the entirety of the whole nostril shape in that view, in that angle. So it does get a little skinnier in this area because if we literally filled in the whole thing, that would be like if someone was tilting their head up and you could see up their nose more. But I'm going to fill this in. I'm going to shade in the nostrils a little bit. Just like that. And then we want to start drawing that outer portion of the nostril that I mentioned. So the skin right around that nostril, that's like the distance of that outline that's created is much closer. It actually mimics that nostril shape. It kind of wraps around it. So we could show that on both sides. And by the way, everyone's tip of their nose varies. Some people it's higher up. Some people, if they have like a longer nose or nostril, or not nostril, the tip of the nose, it might come down a little lower over here. So that's just unique to the person. But now we're going to extend that outer nostril shape out. It's going to come out a little bit first. And then it's going to work its way back in. So it's like up. And then it kind of wraps around like down, just like that. So why is it creating the shape? Because it's helping to form that tip of the nose. It basically morphs with it. You see? So then we're going to come back up and around and let that little outer nostril shape morph right on into the tip of the nose. At this point, we can get rid of this little central line. So if you still have that line there, start erasing it. You don't need it anymore. Okay, let's get rid of all that stuff. Okay, and then I'm going to add more shading. So get ready. Remember how we put our little light bulb before? This was our light source. So opposite our light source is the shadow. So this side of the nose is going to be more defined than the other. And as I mentioned, you're not going to see like a harsh, distinct line. It's really just going to be a matter of shading. Okay, so I'm going to start my shading right on into the crease of the eyelid. Get nice and dark in there. It makes it nice and dramatic. Pretty. Okay. So I'm getting nice and dark. And then as I work my way towards, you'll even notice that my shading almost looks like a parenthesis shape. And that's representing the side of the nose. Because the nose is dimensional. It's the part of the face that extends out the most. It protrudes out to the furthest point. And then I'm going to work my way towards the tip of the nose. So kind of straight down. And I don't want it to look like a perfect sphere or like a perfect ball. The truth is, the tip of the nose functions like a sphere, and then the two little nostrils function like two smaller spheres. But they're not perfect spheres, so you don't want it to literally be like that. You want some variation and some angles to happen. And then on this side, we can still add shading, but it won't be quite as prominent as the opposite side. And you can use that to define your nostrils a little bit more. And we can shade the nostrils as well, the outer portion. And then underneath the tip of the nose, there's definitely going to be much more shadow happening too. Because as I mentioned, the nose sticks out a lot and it will cast shadow. You might have also noticed that I started to add a little bit of shadowing underneath that lower eyelid. Because after all, the eyes are not flat on the face either. And they will produce shadow as well, especially underneath them. Okay. All right. So the next feature on the face that we have to pay some attention to would be, what is it, Annalisa? The mouth. Okay. But the truth is, before we even get to the mouth, there's another feature that lives between the nose and the mouth that's going to help us. Yes. Okay. Annalisa said the Cupid's bow. She's not incorrect, but the technical term for this feature on the face is called the philtrum. So let's talk about that. Okay, how's everyone doing? Hold up your pictures. I'm checking in. Let me see those noses. Oh, you girls are doing such an awesome job. Wow. Wow, wow, wow. I'm so impressed. Truly impressed. Okay, you ready for the philtrum? And I want you to do this along with me, so try this. This is the philtrum. That little, it's called, like, some people call it a Cupid's bow, but it's that indentation that lives between the nose and the lips. If you press down, you can feel it right there. So it's that little indentation. So what's interesting about it, it seems like it's like not such an important detail of the face, but it actually is super important. Why? Because it will help you determine how much space there is between the base of the nose and the start of the upper lip. So like if you made this philtrum like super long down here and then your lip suddenly started, your face is going to look really strange. Or reversely, if you make like so close to the tip of the nose, it's also going to look funny. So that's why proportions are really important. The other thing is the philtrum is what creates your upper lip shape. So if you really look carefully, that indentation is what creates those little, I call them like mountains, those two little mountains that exist on your upper lip. That's really what's defining it. It's your philtrum. And it varies from person to person. That's the other interesting part. So some people, their philtrum shape will really define like the upper corners of the lip. It might be like very triangular, like mine is a little more triangular naturally. Some people have it where it's much more rounded and wider, and some people have a philtrum that's like more shallow. It's there, everyone has it, but it's maybe like a little smoother. It's not quite as defined. So that's also unique to you personally, and it's good to look at the mirror and see that. And then the other thing that I'm going to point out to you is that when we draw lips, we're going to draw one at a time because they're two separate entities. A rookie mistake is that people tend to draw the lips as like one solid shape, and that's what we want to avoid. So I'll show you that in just a moment as well. And we'll also talk about the outer corners of the lips. And this little thing here, like right underneath the philtrum, we have this little kind of, I want to say like hanging shape that mimics the philtrum as well. And the separation between the lips actually mimics the shape of the upper lip too, which is kind of interesting. All right, so let's draw philtrums and get to the upper lip. All right. Okay, so the philtrum actually starts from the nostril. And there's this area right between our the two nostrils that separates them from the inside where we have cartilage in our nose. And that's called the septum. But then suddenly coming from these nostrils, it's like another parenthesis shape. So you're going to hear me say parentheses a lot. So let's just kind of lightly start to draw the parenthesis shape that is the philtrum, starting from those inner portions of those nostrils. And then to finish off that shape, we can do like another parenthesis that lightly attaches the two. So it looks like that. And I'm going to erase my little halfway mark where the philtrum is. And remember, we were kind of pressing down in here. So I want you to think of the face as a landscape where there's a feature that sticks out, like the tip of the nose, it's going to catch light, like a mountain. Wherever something dips in and recedes, like the inner corner of the eye, for example, it's going to catch shadow. So the philtrum is going to catch shadow because it dips in just like a valley. So we're just going to lightly start to shade underneath the tip of the nose. Right, we can define that even more. And then let's start shading in our philtrum. And you notice I'm keeping my shadow on my left side. And then I'm going to work it right into that little parenthesis shape. And I'm letting light catch on the opposite side. And it's kind of funny looking when it's by itself. It's going to look like a little mustache, but that will turn into lips in just a second. It won't actually look like a mustache when we're done. So let's just talk about the upper lip shape. So this philtrum is going to define that upper lip. So we can draw, it's going to look like two mountains, like here's a mountain and here's a mountain for the upper lip shape. But it's up to you. You can make them triangular. You can make them more rounded if that's what you prefer. I think I'm going to round mine out just a little bit, just for fun. Okay. And then we're going to extend this line out very lightly towards where this vertical is. So hopefully you remembered a little fact about where the outer portion of the lips end. And remember when we did those vertical lines, like one vertical line to divide half of the face, and then another vertical line that divides half of the face? It's dividing a half of a half, right? Because we had that central line originally that was just dividing the skull in half. So this is the half of the half lines. And those lines go exactly to the center of the eye. And then it shows us where the lips will end. Okay, so that's a good indication of where to end that lip. All right, so what I started to show you before is that the upper lip on its own will have like another little parenthesis shape that sort of mimics that philtrum. It's like another valley, like that. And then up here, it's basically mimicking the mountain, each peak of the upper lip. So we have a shape like this and a shape like this. So it's like mountain, valley, mountain. And then what we're going to do is we're going to round this out and curve it like a long parenthesis shape and bring it up. Okay? The truth is we don't actually want that shape to completely connect to this upper line because the outer corners of our mouths will extend past that. Okay. There we go. So that's just the upper lip. Something that I also want to point out to you is that some people don't actually have this shape right here. And it's more of an unusual quality, but it's very pretty. Some people have it where they're this little hanging portion of that upper lip goes in the opposite direction. So I'll just draw it off to the side so that you could see. Some people have an upper lip that does this and it curves the opposite way. So if you have that, congratulations. You have a very unique feature that's also very beautiful. And it's less people in the world have that, but there you go. Okay, now when it comes to the lower lip naturally tends to almost always be wider than the upper lip. So I'm just going to start off by angling it. You'll notice that I did not touch the line that separates the two lips. I left a little bit of space there. And then I'm going to round it out at the bottom, or maybe angle it. I'm squaring it a little bit even. But I want it to be a little fuller. And I'm starting to add a little bit of thicker line here, a little bit of shadow, because that lower lip, and I'll show you from a side view, actually protrudes out. And there will be a little bit of shadow cast under that lower lip. And it also gives the illusion that it's a little poutier if you add a little more shadow under here. Okay. I'm also going to start erasing some of these lines that we originally had on the lips, just to clean it up a bit. Okay. So we will leave it at that for today. Okay, and we'll continue with the rest of the features the next time that I see you.